Well, hello everyone. I hope you're ready to be inspired. We have Naomi Epstein here. Naomi, can you let us know where you are in the world right now?
Hi, well, welcome from sunny Israel. Like of the previous speakers, it's also hot here, and but lots of beautiful flowers and things to see. So very glad to be here today.
Well, we're so happy to have you here. I'm very, very excited because you were one of the first ones to be in the 30 goals. And I'm going to let you know a little about Naomi professionally while she gets her slides together. National Counselor of English as a Foreign Language to deaf and hard of hearing students in Israel. And I was so excited that she participated in 30 Goals. I was especially moved when she wrote a post about using technology because she's in a situation where she didn't have a lot of technology, and she gave very practical advice on how to use a computer with no internet at all, and I often use it in my keynotes as an example. And it was really great because I actually got to meet her in person and eat with her, so I was really, really excited that experience happened because she's been a very big part of the 30 Goals Challenge. She was born in Philadelphia, but when she was 11 years old, she moved to Israel. She got a BA in Education of the Deaf. She's also published 2 course books, Apples and Zebras and the Book of Keys, and she currently works at a comprehensive high school, even though she was an elementary teacher, elementary school teacher. And so I'm going to go ahead and give it to her and let her inspire you.
Thank you very much, Shelley. I hope you can see my slides now. And the subject of the talk is the name of Goal 17. From when I did the 30 Goals Challenge, it was Help Them Shine. And I hope you can see the chess pieces shining, because we're going to talk about games and the power of games and the trickiness of when you have to play games when you're teaching one-on-one. But a quick word about myself, thanks to the introduction from Shelley. And I'm the strange one with the 3 degrees, but none of them is a PhD. I started off the BA in Education of the Deaf, but because I'm from the United States, I became an English teacher, a qualified English teacher. And then, since I'm a big believer in the magic school bus and Miss Frizzle and finding the best way to learn, I did an MA in Curriculum Development. And as you can see, I'm a graduate of the 30 Goals 2011. And I can't recommend it enough to teachers. It has, even though I'm already a teacher for 30 years now, I've been teaching for 30 years, it's so refreshing to stop and reflect and think about these things. It has given my teaching so much, and it has introduced me to the online world of blogging, of PLN, of educational cooperation globally. So let's go on to our topic today. Games. We all know that school is supposed to teach the 3 R's, but games teach a lot more than 3 R's. I'm very proud of myself with this slide of how many things I could think of that begin with the letter R that have to do with games. Games are so important. Now, sometimes when teachers think that a student comes to study with them one-on-one, they think, okay, I'm teaching this student privately because he's having a lot of trouble or she's having a lot of trouble, so we have to buckle down and work. There's no time for games. The opposite is true. Games are necessary. Many of the students that need extra help are very tense. They're very depressed by their failures. They think they have low self-esteem. They think they can't succeed. Games will help the student relax. You can't learn if you're all tense and upset and depressed. And when you relax, you can begin to remember. You can begin to rejoice. I used rejoice instead of the word fun because it began with R. And the only way you can review small amounts of material over and over again, which is what some kids need so that they can recall it, is by making it fun, making it into a game. And of course, playing games teaches you to respect the other person. You have to wait your turn. You have to not laugh at another person. Games are very, very helpful. But what happens, when you're playing one-on-one? When you just divide the class into teams, everyone knows about the things we mentioned in the previous slide. But now you're playing one-on-one. I mean, the teacher is not the student's equal. It's true, no child is ever exactly like another child, but more or less kids can be on the same level. They can play the games together. The teacher is nowhere near the student's equal. The teacher knows so much more English. On the other hand, we don't want the teacher to be the one admonishing the kids. We don't want the child to be scared of making an error in front of the teacher. Or if you look at the bottom picture on the right, a teacher is not the parent's mother. It's not, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll always give you the right answer, let me just help you, don't worry about it, don't make an effort. We want to encourage the child to try, to focus, to concentrate. It's a delicate balance between not scaring the kid, giving the child support, but also not, overindulging in the child and just say, okay, I'll always let you win. So we have to think how to solve this tricky balance. So let's take one game as an example to look at different ways to do this. And as I will say again afterwards, but these same principles work for so many different games. Almost any game you can possibly think of. So let's start with a game from America, baseball. A lot of kids find it attractive when you bring something from abroad because baseball isn't as common around here. Soccer, or football as we call it, is much more popular in basketball. So baseball is really cool. I have a picture here, but you don't have to have the picture. What do you need to play baseball? This is your equipment. The one die is instead of a ball. Now, by the way, a little side note here for playing games in general in class and having fun with games is if you can get a hold of dice from D&D. D&D is Dungeons and Dragons. It's a kind of fantasy game that a lot of people around the world like to play, and they have these amazing, beautiful dice in different colors with all kinds of cool things. I have one with a 0 and a 9 on it. There are ones with numbers above 20, 30, different sizes, shapes. They really add a fun element to the lesson just by having interesting dice. But for this game, you only need one dice. So that's our ball. You need markers. Any kind of markers will do. For this game, you only need two, one for the teacher and one for the student. But you can use anything. You can use folded pieces of paper. You can use coins you take out of your purse if you're playing when you didn't plan on playing and didn't bring any markers. Anything can be used for markers. Okay, here are the original rules of the game, because this game wasn't invented for just playing one-on-one. And I learned this game 30 years ago when I started teaching from other teachers. I have no idea where it originated, and I can't give credit to the original teacher that taught it. If you remember the baseball diamonds, you begin at home base. Now let's say for our example that we're working on irregular verbs. I think that weak students really have to spend time learning and memorizing the irregular verbs, because verbs give a lot of information in the sentences, and even if they look them up in a dictionary, sometimes they can give them a lot of trouble, because let's say if they look up the word saw in a dictionary, they could get a tool if they are not aware that it's a verb, and they would get the other meaning of saw. So irregular verbs are an example of something I think weak students need to work on. So let's pretend we have flashcards with irregular verbs. So, well, the first player rolls the die. Let's say we get 3. That player is shown 3 cards with irregular verbs. Now, whatever the task is that you want the student to do, it can be translated into mother tongue, it can be, say, a sentence using that verb, it can be acting out that verb, whatever you think is suitable, whatever it is you're teaching or working on with the student. Now, you gave the student 3 tasks, 3 prompts. The student progresses according to the number of correct answers. And it progresses along from base to base. And every time they complete a full circle and get to home base, they get a point. And the player with the most points wins. The problem is when you're playing one-on-one, so the student does it in his or her turn and answers the question, what happens when it's the teacher's turn? Then now we have a problem. So there are many ways to deal with this issue. One thing I forgot to say, if you saw there was a red X on the die before, in the original game, if a student throws 4 or, throws 5, the number 5 or 6 on the die, then they have to throw again, because 5 or 6 is more than a complete circle. So that's not good. That's too many bases and too many prompts for tasks. Sometimes I take color stickers and I cover over the 5 and 6 and I just add more 2s and 3s. Or you can just have the student throw the dice again. Okay, now, one way of doing it, teacher and student. Only the student throws the die. And the teacher does have a marker, if you notice, if you look here at the instructions. But the student progresses according to the number of correct answers. Let's say he recognized 2 irregular verbs correctly, and 1 he got confused. So the teacher will move ahead 1, and the student will move ahead 2. Sometimes the teacher will have a turn and she's not moving at all because the student knew all the words. And then you play this way until you get to the situation that the teacher says, well, listen, my dear student, there's no point in us playing with this pack of words anymore, this pack of prompts, because you know them so well. I don't get to play at all. You're so good. Let's move to something else. And that, of course, is what we're aiming for. So this is one way to do it. Another way is both the student and the teacher get a turn of throwing the die. The teacher doesn't have any tasks to complete, no question to answer, but the teacher always moves 1 base less. Let's say the teacher threw 4, she can only move 3. The teacher threw 2, only move 1, while the student gets the full range of whatever it is he threw on the die. That works also. It's a variation on the same theme. Now, when you have more sensitive students are really sensitive students with emotional issues, they cannot deal with not progressing if they made a mistake. This is a very sensitive issue for them, their self-esteem. You have to be very, very careful with them. So I do that the student gets 2 turns and the teacher gets 1 turn. If the student makes a mistake, he doesn't have to stay in place. He has to repeat after the teacher the correction, but he still progresses according to whatever it is the die indicated. And in this way, the teacher can win, the student can win. It depends on whatever happens with the dice. So the dice is an equalizer, but the student is not in the situation that he's not moving forward at all. Because for some children, this is a huge, huge issue, especially with ones that have emotional issues. You have to be very careful and know who you're working with. So this works beautifully. I use this a lot. And they enjoy playing so much that they really do pay attention to the corrections I make. And that's the point of the whole exercise, isn't it? to have fun and make them pay attention. Another option, which I use a lot, and many students like, but mine is not all. There's never a game or a strategy or something that works for all students, is using time. The student competes against himself or herself. Now, this baseball game is a circular game. It doesn't have an end. So either you play it at the end of the lesson or you set a time. And 4 or 5 minutes, I think, would be enough. Only the student throws the die and answers the question, prompts, doing whatever the task is you wanted him to do, place the words in sentences, translate them, whatever it is. And then the student progresses along the bases according to his answers, and then marks down every time he passes through home base, he marks down the points. And you put the paper in a notebook or a special little notebook or a paper in a very safe place that the student will be assured that next lesson that paper will be waiting for him or for her. And then the student plays again the next lesson with the same task for the same length of time and sees if she can improve the score. The student is trying to improve their own time, their own score. Sometimes with the shorter games, the student plays several games, one after another, and tests the time and tracks their improvement. This can also be done with a chart that you color in every time how many minutes and how many points the student improved. The student gained each lesson. Many students like this, and it's meaningful, and this works very well for adults. We often work with adult learners, not just with children. This works very well with adults, and they like playing baseball too. These principles, these ways of approaching will work with almost any game. And it's really nice that if you can bring in different lessons, all kinds of commercial board games that you have access to. If you're a parent, I brought in lots of stuff for my children. Or if you have access to relatives with children, it's nice that different lessons you can have a colorful board game. Because as much as I'm a big fan of homemade material and I make a lot of my materials, the commercial board games are very attractive. It doesn't matter that they weren't built or weren't designed to teach English. You use them for your purpose. And this way I can take a different board every lesson, but we're still playing with the same principles that we did with the baseball. But with to win or to lose, it's whatever it is. It's with the rules of the game. It's snakes and ladders. If there's a ladder, the student will go up. So that adds a lot of elements of fun, but they get the practice they need. And once the students understand the principles you're using, they themselves know how to apply them to any game. Now, it's not just board games. Pen and paper games are lots of fun, and they're nice that they're always available. Tic-tac-toe, I have not yet met a student that didn't know what tic-tac-toe is. I think in Britain they call it noughts and crosses. Help me out in the chat box the way it's called in different countries, please. All the students know it. The same principle works. Before it's your turn, you have to translate a word or use a sentence or write down a word, and then you can play either 2 turns or 1 turn or whatever it is, whichever principle you're using. The same way we drew a baseball diamond, you can draw a football field or a soccer field if you're American. You draw lines and you draw a goal in each end, and you put 1 marker in the middle. If the student got the answers right, the student progresses towards his goal. If he got confused, the markers move towards the teacher's goal, and then the teacher will get points. They like that one a lot as well. Baseball I have found to be more attractive because it's from abroad. Now, card games give you other options for cooperation with teachers. Student and teachers, if you put out a number of cards and then you flip them over, how many cards can you remember? The student can test the teacher too. I, for myself, I'm terrible at memory games. It's hard for me to remember which card was where. If the student shuffles it around and I have to see how many cards I could remember, then we can compare numbers. Or if you put out a number of cards and then someone closes their eyes, either the teacher or the student, and one card is taken away and you have to find out which card is missing, both the teacher and the student can play this one. And this works really well. And finally, I go to conferences a lot too. I learn from others. And here's a game that I can credit to Karen White, who speaks a lot about using plain paper to make games. You can also play a collaboration game. The student and the teacher sit back to back for a moment or in different sides of the room so there'll be no peeking. They take a plain piece of paper and they fold it and they cut it up into 8 pieces, and then they should put silly drawings of different things. I purposely did it with the computer by hand, sort of, from the options in the computer. So you will see that these are silly drawings, not very good drawings. Can be drawings of anything, and kids are very creative. You might come up with all kinds of weird things that kids come up. So the teacher draws 8 and the kid draws 8, and then you shuffle all the cards together face down, and the child and the teacher sit together, and they have to think of an association to connect all of them together and see if they can connect all of the cards together and see how many they can. So what could you connect with a person and the moon? Well, maybe the person is walking outside and he sees the moon. But then how can we connect that to the apple pie? Well, the pie maybe is round and the moon is kind of round. So that will give us a connection. But then what do we do with the sun? Because we have the moon, so how are we going to connect the sun? Well, apple pie, you need eggs to make it, and eggs are yellow, so maybe the sun is yellow. And you think of all kinds of silly ways to be creative and connect them. And then you have a lot of English practice there. You're reviewing a lot of material. The teacher can help the student and suggest ideas and gently correct as they go along. But you're playing together to see if you can meet the challenge to connect all of these things together. So help your students shine through games. Thank you very much for coming. And I blog regularly. This is my blog, and I'll be glad to be in touch with you. And thank you for coming today.
Well, thank you so much, Naomi. That you had so many great ideas there. Very, very, very creative. We're going to go ahead and redo some audience questions and let you know what the audience, if they had any questions or comments. Theodora, oh, there she is.
Yeah, hi. People kept talking, they keep talking on chats, telling each other how games are really important for children, and they were exchanging links and game ideas while you were talking. And Peggy said that you don't have always have to use technology to incorporate games into your classroom. And also, Mariana had a question. If you are actually using games for all students or only for special education students?
Oh no, I believe all students. I taught adults, I've taught kids, I've taught students of all ages, students with special needs, students without special needs. There are so many benefits to using games. Adults need them, children need them. Everyone can benefit from games. Of course, with the right dosage, not to make your whole lesson one big game, but definitely good for everyone.
Well, you will see in the chat afterwards when you get the discussion that everybody was exchanging ideas, so I don't have anything else to add in this. You will see and you hear for yourself.
Moderator. And thank you all for coming. And I'll head over to the chat to see if I can answer any questions.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of this. It's just, it's such a great honor to be even able to meet you. It was such an exciting time.
About you, Shelley.
So thank you so much.
Okay.